Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Ding. I hit record, and it is recording, and I'm excited about the hiking I did this morning. Well, that too, but actually about the person I'm about to talk to today and ask her questions and learn from her. And I gotta tell you, I've been seeing her all over LinkedIn. Her social game is on point. And some of you might say like, oh, Casey, you're out there on social, but no. I am not fit to walk in her flip-flops or her shoes, whatever style she's got on today. Amazing. So she is impressive when it comes to LinkedIn networking, content strategy. She's a B2B brand strategist, a writer, social media consultant, and also an art and design aficionado. Many awards received from all those different activities. Currently the senior marketing and customer acquisition manager at Herman. Chantelle, Marcelle, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi. You should
So
be
I'm excited.
should be like a marketing hype person.
I am. I'm your marketing hype man. I'm your hype man today. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's up? How's it going? So you're here, and we are just ready to crush this thing. And I know you're going to come out guns blazing and swinging. So let me pass you. You know I'm about to pass you. Here it comes. Oh, Thor's hammer. Grab it. You got it. Wow, you just like backhand one grab. Handed backhand. I had two hands. Now who's we? I got to work out. That was impressive.
That
So
pandemic fitness.
Is that what it is? Pandemic fitness?
Yeah.
I believe you. I totally believe you. We'll have to get into fitness programs. So take Thor's hammer that you just gingerly just swung around like a crazy person.
One-handed.
Yes, right? And smash for me some kind of myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Just set the record straight once and for all.
I think that right now there is this need for authenticity among brands.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we're getting that this year. There's been a lot of joking about the generic template for certain messages that brands are sending out, in these uncertain times, or even some of the social justice messaging that we're seeing. And I think a lot of people are pulling back the curtain and saying, okay, this is what you're publicly saying. You can't just talk the talk. You've got to walk the walk. You've got to embody these values from top to bottom, so that when you're putting out these messages that sound very good, there's got to be something behind it. There's got to be some action or a level of awareness that you're trying to move towards something better, I believe.
I feel like this is such an important myth to smash. Just drawing people into the core concept of authenticity, the way you put it, because I was trying to pull it up. I just literally received that email you're talking about. In this case, I think it was the COVID style, but you're right. People are hitting on the social side, on everything. They're just trying to like look the part. Yeah. Casey, during these difficult and uncertain times, many have a tendency to not look at our statements or contemplate whether your current investment strategy or advisor's approach is just simply staying the course. Wow, that was a long sentence, and I marked it as spam. I actually copied it and put it in my chatter group to show people what not to do. I mean, why do people do this? How is this happening in the first place?
I think there's a little bit of fear around doing the wrong thing right now. And that's another point that you're seeing a lot about marketing, just this desire to be really cautious, because nobody wants to get canceled. Nobody wants to be eviscerated on social media or by these communities where, I think that there's more of a tendency for people to call out brands or individuals that are public and very have a lot of visibility.
Yeah.
Just because there's that level of like one-to-one access. Like there's a Twitter account, somebody's tweeting from it for a brand, and you can tweet back. You can provide this real-time feedback that whether you like it or you don't, you can critique right there directly.
Everybody right in front. Yeah. With your anonymous Twitter account with an egg on it, you can just start saying the most angry things, and you don't even see the person in front of you, and you're just sort of throwing stuff out there. Or you can, right, you can pick on a brand if they, even if they were trying to be authentic. To your point, the fear of looking like they don't care. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the fear of not caring, and then the fear of caring. It's like all this fear-based marketing. It's crazy town.
Right. And you don't want to be the only brand that didn't say something. You don't want to be the only brand that didn't change your logo to match the month, whatever the awareness uh, focus is for that month. You don't want to be the brand that didn't do anything and then people are looking at you like, well,
Man,
don't you care?
right.
And we're seeing that I think consumers are a lot more positively responding to brands that speak up for causes that they're interested in.
Got it. Did you hear about that there's like a social thing around, because this is exactly to what you're bringing up. It was like the Turkey uh social media thing. There was like it was supporting women in Turkey.
I I did not see that. No.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of criticism of that one, because I think what everyone was supposed to do for that was, oh, it was like challenge accepted. And it was about the concerning rates of women dying in Turkey and violence against women, which I think is fantastic to highlight. But all people did is they like changed their Instagram photos to
Mm-hmm.
grayscale, and then they like shared it, and like no one actually knew what they were saying it for. So it was like, yeah, it started out as like a cool thing to highlight, but then everyone was just like sharing this thing because it was like the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Brands, people alike.
And that's happened, I think, with a couple of different causes that have
Mm,
caught on social media. But
sure.
I don't know if the strategy wasn't quite there. For example, there was the recent Blackout Tuesday where everybody was posting the blacked out
I
pictures.
heard about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And so that sort of caught on, and everyone was posting just a picture, a blacked out image, and hashtagging it with BLM or
Sure.
Blackout Tuesday. And I think after it started gaining traction, they realized, oh, now the feed is completely populated by just Black images rather than educational resources or
Right.
the things that people who are experts on in this area in D&I, diversity and inclusion,
Hmm.
it's suppressing their voices. So I think that with a lot of these causes, there's a little bit of need to pause and just think about the strategy there before people just start acting and speaking out.
Right. Like knee-jerk reaction. Put this graphic up. Put that icon in. Like, maybe pause for a sec. To your point, pause for a second. Figure out what the strategy is. What do you recommend? How do we walk that line? How do you walk the line? What do you recommend a company does? I think of people accounts can be a little different than the company accounts, but either way, as professional marketer out there, and then also, if you're managing your company's Twitter or social,
Mm.
how do you balance the caring with the other extreme, where you would look bad or get canceled, or even just you did a bad job of marketing?
Man, that stuff. I
Yeah,
think
that's why I get to
you
ask
know.
you that question. I have no idea.
Yeah, I wish that I had all the answers here because I probably would be.
Totally.
um, I think that monitoring
Oh,
is a
monitoring.
huge component. Social media listening is big. It's a key part of any social media marketing strategy. You should
Okay.
be listening to what different communities are talking about, what your audiences are talking about, but also what the broader discussion is about. Watching some of the leading trends and hashtags and knowing where to kind of steer to be delicate in some
Yeah.
cases. Um, you even see sometimes there have been missteps where brands have caught onto a popular hashtag, and I guess they just saw that it was one of the leading trends and they'll just put it in
Oh,
there
geez.
like, oh, buy XYZ hashtag
I
whatever. And
roll.
then they realize after, oh my gosh, this was completely insensitive. Uh,
Right.
I shouldn't have used that hashtag. So I think that the listening and the monitoring is key.
Okay.
I would also say having a level of diversity of thought, experience,
Mm.
background at the table when you're coming up with your marketing strategy. So making sure that you are practicing inclusive marketing, that you've got enough voices who are contributing to your strategy to
Hmm.
where you can pull from that range of thought and perspective when you're shaping yours. That way you're not looking at something from a very narrow perspective. I think a lot of times people tend to build teams of people who think very like them, who,
Hmm.
you know, just your friends, people that you feel comfortable with, people that you agree with, who sort of play into that level of bias that we
Sure.
as marketers are so aware of, that our audiences have bias, but we also have to be aware of the bias that we ourselves have. So
Yeah,
having a wide range of voices contributing to our strategy and lending itself to our brand voice is so important.
totally. I had a recent experience with that where my friend Andy, we'll hop on some phone calls, you go hiking in the past kind of thing. And I feel like we probably disagree on a lot of things, but like the core stuff we agree on. He's a great guy. I love spending time with him. It's fun chatting with him. Um, but I remember chatting recently, and I'll say something, and he'll bring up like the other side of it, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Or I think one example was we're making fun of the people, or I was making fun of people that leave like a sporting game early. And I was like, those people, I hate those people. I'm like, I don't know why. I don't really hate them, but you won't catch me doing that. I'm here till the end, Patriots or whoever. Like I'm
Oh
here.
gosh, I can never go to a game with you now.
Do you leave? Do you leave early?
I'm totally one of those. If my team is, if the outcome is completely obvious, then sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm out of here. If I'm
See,
losing
you are
or,
one of those people. But you know what? Andy brought up. He goes, hey man, you don't know. Maybe they need to get home to the babysitter who's only a tween and can't stay up that late. Maybe their cat is sick, or you gotta get the kid home, change the diaper. Like you have no idea. And I was like, I know, you're right, Andy. But to your point, like having someone like that, or having many people like that on your team where you actually listen to each other, I could easily say like, hey, I want to put out this message. What do you think? And I've even had that in the past, this summertime. I'm like, ooh, this feels like something should we release something? Shouldn't we? But bouncing it off someone else who just comes at it from like, Mars versus Venus. They're just way at different field. And they're like, yeah, I like that too. Or no, maybe we should change that. It's so true. We can't be, it's like an echo chamber, right? If we're just surrounded by people who are like, oh yeah, you're totally right. And you all think the same, then you're going to miss out on, I don't know, the other 80% of people who don't think like you, or 50-50,
right.
whatever their number is.
You don't want to surround yourself with the yes men or
Right.
the people who aren't going to give you that breadth of just looking at something from all different angles. And
Right.
it's not just about race or gender. It's also about, what type of thinker are you? Like,
Yeah.
do you look at things more from, like, there are people who are, their minds are just formulated to really be more data driven, they're more analytical. There are people who are more interpersonal, who have great people skills, social skills,
Yeah.
really are caring. There are people who are just really creative and imaginative and out there. So, and then of course you need the people who are organized, who are planners, who can structure something, project manager type of person.
Oh,
I always find
totally.
that in marketing you've got to have the project manager role filled.
Seriously.
um,
A room full of
so
creatives. Like we're going to have a good time, but I'm not sure what comes out of that meeting.
great stuff, but I
Yeah.
mean, is it actually going to get seen through, or is it going to be like, here's the next thing, let's pivot
Let's
each
pivot.
week to something?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All the different things you need to look for them. Have you ever heard of a Colby test?
No.
Kolbe. It's really interesting. Kolbe. It was from a lady named Kathy Colby, and she made up this test. She found out that actually a lot of the IQ tests of the past and those kind of things are actually, um, I don't think race is the word, but like they they're scored and weighed in weird ways that like women get different answers, or different cultures get different. So they're not good, right? They're not
Right.
really like a. But this Colby, so she made this Colby thing to where like there is no pattern that emerges. It's just people, to your point. The patterns are the people themselves as opposed to where they came from, what they do. And instead of being like your personality, it's how you attack problems. And kind of like we were joking about, there's the organized person, and then there's the person who can adapt. And sometimes you need the adapter. Sometimes you need the plan person. You need the plan person, but what happens when the plan goes to hell? Like you need someone who can get in there. Okay, well,
little
let's adapt.
flexibility.
Right. And so, yeah, there's like all these different opposites and all these different, just 4 different numbers, but it gets you all these different combinations. And what I always loved about that class is on the same kind of topic is there is no wrong answer for that. It was more, it wasn't less of let's get everyone with a score of like 4.393, which is me. It was like, no, that would be terrible to have a bunch of 4.393 Casey's running around. You need everybody. And then what's interesting is there's like further tests and further things you can do that say, okay, show me how many of the first numbers you have here, show me how many of this one, show me how many of the organized people you have. And a really organized company would go, whoa, we're lacking the creative side. In fact, I heard a story about, it was like a poultry business, and a consultant came in to do some consulting and did these sort of tests on everyone, and they were all the same. They were all like organized, data detail people, but they had no creative, like, hey, let's go try this, let's go try that. So all they did was just look at numbers like, how's the egg business? It's doing good today, and they just never adapted. So it's like all about looking for people instead of being like, oh, let's make sure that we hit numbers or whatever. It's like, no, you actually will benefit. You'll do better if you have these outside views telling you things.
There are actually studies that say that if you have more cognitive diversity, more diversity of thought, you're bringing in those different people who are come from different backgrounds, different levels of experience, then your team will be more innovative. Your company will benefit, and it improves the bottom line. And I was reading something that in the UK, there are even investors now. I think that it even improves your credit rating as a company or something like that, if you can prove that you're adhering to these like standards of diversity and inclusion that are becoming such a priority, especially in 2020. I think we're seeing that, aside from what you were saying, agility and flexibility, being able to adapt to the craziness that's going on in the world. Inclusion is also becoming one of the predominant themes. So it's like a combination of all of these different thinkers, it's just a celebration of individual, unique things that you bring to a company that can all contribute and benefit a team. Right. My sister's background is in IO psychology, so she's constantly sending me all these like assessments to take and stuff, and so she's really into that. But one of the ones that I've looked at most recently, and partially because of the company that I'm at, is the HBDI, which brings in whole brain thinking. So looking at all those different thinking styles and saying all of those together create more of a whole brained style of thinking. So helping companies to take advantage of that.
Interesting. It'd be interesting to see how that maybe compares with the Colby and other things.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's more than just a 1 factor, 2 factor. One of the things you said too, especially with like different standards people are setting, it's kind of sad. There's like the carrot and the stick. It's kind of sad that we have to beat some people into being like, you need to have more than just like the same Colby score, or the same, age group or whatever. You need to stories are, they're still there, like the same age group. Oh, what's this Twitter thing? Or, Blockbuster had the ability to buy Netflix.
I saw that.
Like what was going on? They must not, they didn't have some young kid in there going like, you guys, you should buy
I
this.
would love to stream. I'd love to not have to go. Did you go to Blockbuster back in the day? Was that like a thing for you?
Does that date me a little bit? I remember Blockbuster was where you would get movies from. It was kind of a fun thing to go there because they'd always have like candy, soda you could get. So it's like, let's go get some snacks and a movie, and so I remember that.
No, I did too. It was like a weekend fun when I was like a kid or whatever. Let's go pick up the movie, and then, oh no, they're out of whatever the hottest title is. So we've got to go settle for some movie from the 80s, because there's nothing, the new ones are all gone. You had to
Right.
be one of the
There's a
first
limited
people
number.
there.
There's like 18 of this new VHS or DVD, and it's like, well, you don't have
uh,
more. Oh yeah, nope, that's it.
and
Limited.
now Blockbuster is a museum in Oregon. There's the one. So,
Is it
which by the
Oregon?
way,
I heard there's, yeah, somewhere up there, Oregon or Alaska has like one left.
I want to visit it so bad. It's like if I ever take a road trip to the West Coast, that is one of my stopping points. I can't wait to go back there and just reminisce.
There's something about walking through those aisles and just looking at pictures. It's almost like at some point, maybe in VR, Blockbuster could come back and have like a Blockbuster skin on top of iTunes, because like scrolling through iTunes or Apple TV, sometimes they show me stupid stuff. Like they think they know me, and I'm like, clearly you don't know me. No, just because I like pondered that one doesn't mean I actually want to see more of that. And then
Right.
you know what? Almost like my movies become echo chambers. I'm like, no, I want to break out. I want to see a doc on this. I want to see that.
A
So
hundred
with
percent.
Blockbuster, you just walk around. You're like, oh, look at the horror section, ah, ha, ha, or look at this section over here, and it was just fun to kind of walk around and see the wide variety of movies that people like.
It's funny. I was just thinking about that, about the chambers that we create around ourselves.
Yeah.
Social media is such a big example of that, where, you follow certain people and they're going to be espousing the ideas that you probably already agree with. It's probably not going to
Right.
be some wild thing that you're like, I've never heard of that, or
Mm-hmm.
don't I do not agree with that to the core of my being. It's mainly going to be like people who think like you, and a lot of times people in a similar profession or within your industry. So
Yeah.
you're not getting to see a whole bunch of different viewpoints there. And I found that myself. I was scrolling through my LinkedIn feed, and I was like, wow, a lot of these ideas, a lot of these posts are starting to sound the same. Even like I'll post something and I'll scroll down and I'll be like, oh my gosh, someone said almost the exact same thing. Are we like it's like our minds are just, I don't know,
Yeah.
starting to
Yeah.
sync up because
Because
I don't even know.
you're in it, and
Yeah.
it could be neat for a while, but then to your point, like sometimes it just tires me out. I'm just like, ugh, another post on
Short
MQLs being
sentences.
dead. MQLs are
Yeah.
dead. I think we've
Yeah.
smashed out a few times on this show myself, and it's kind of cool because sometimes you see like what sticks. Like everyone shares the same thing. Yes, these are bad. What about them is bad? And then everyone has some flavor, but then the high peaks sort of peek through and like, oh, that's what's really going on here because 9 people talked about it, but then they all said the same similar thing around it. So it could be kind of cool, but at the same time, you're right. It could be like, wow, is my feed just everyone saying the same stupid thing over again? And am I doing that too? Am I just
Right.
like, and everyone's like, yay, here's your like. Like, no, I want to engage.
No, you do find that they're especially some key influencers within, and I'm just going to speak to the marketing community because I
Yeah.
follow it so much, but they're key influencers within the marketing community who they will say something, and then for weeks after you'll just see the echoes of that. So you'll see other people sort of posting a similar iteration of that, or reaffirming what that person said. So it's kind of funny that they're I guess that's why they're called influencers. They are very influential on the messaging and on the thought patterns that you're seeing among marketing. Another big one right now: take away the gates, no gates. There should be no gated content.
Right.
That's
No
a
gated
huge one
content.
I've seen. Or write like Hemingway. That's another one I've seen
I haven't
over
heard
and
of that one.
over. Yeah, there's like the Hemingway app where you can filter your writing in and sort of get like a readability score. It's excellent. It's an excellent tool, but I mean, Hemingway wasn't the only great writer. I mean, there were other excellent writers who had a different writing style, and
Right.
so it's just interesting to see some of the patterns that emerge in messaging when a
Hmm.
community starts, I guess, forming that, like you called it, an echo chamber of sorts.
Yeah, we get kind of tribal sometimes where we like the people around us, and what's been crazy? Like I don't how did our because like I've definitely Treasure Impact, do Pardot. We are in the Salesforce ecosystem. There's a lot of Salesforce consultants, and they're all saying stuff, and we're all connected. How did we get connected? How do you know? Because maybe I just experienced your social wonderfulness, and I was like, I can't get away from you. This is really cool, but like, do you know from your end what happened? Or
I, it's weird. I was actually thinking about this morning. I was like, how did we get connected?
yeah.
And I don't remember. I want to say it was Twitter first, that we connected on Twitter first.
Yeah. Right. Because I remember following you because your Twitter has a link to your LinkedIn.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like that was secondary because I was like, oh, it's Casey on my LinkedIn now. It's weird. The worlds have collided, but I
Right.
don't remember exactly, which is weird because that seems to like, I'm connected with so many people now. We have a lot of mutual contacts in our
Interesting.
network even. And I think it's just a matter of like, you friend one person and
Hmm.
then their network the algorithm starts serving up your content to their network. So then you end up kind of more interconnected.
Right. And then you're like, oh, hey, oh, yeah, look, you're right. We have 56 mutual connections.
I
Does that mean we're in the same bubble? I
think
guess.
so.
And yeah, like Daryl, Prale, Michael Brenner. Wow, all these people that we
There's like a
know.
marketing world, an ecosystem that I
Yeah.
think is forming, and we're both in it.
Yeah, Liz, Mandy. Wow. All these people. It's crazy. And then we somehow get connected. Well, I would say not somehow, Max too. Great people. A lot of people have been able to talk on the show. Um, Sangram. Shout out to Cal Lacey. Yeah, all these folks.
He was on your show recently, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wow. It's really interesting because it wasn't just by accident, I would say. Um, I feel like I found your marketing first. I feel like maybe one of our many friends here liked something, retweeted something, and I probably saw it come up a couple times. I don't know. Like I don't even know, but I feel like it was you kicking ass in the social realm that like I remember seeing you and being like, wow, she is like all over this.
Mm, that's good. That
Yeah,
means I'm
that's
doing
probably what you're
something.
going for, but it
I should keep
worked. I
doing
was
it.
like, I keep seeing her, and like, but you also had like you were fun on Twitter, and I think sometimes people, I don't know, what do you think about Twitter? Like, is it all bots now, and just you and me and a couple bots?
It's what Twitter is a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
Sometimes with LinkedIn, you don't have to put that much. I feel like you don't have to be on LinkedIn all day, like watching it all day, although I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. But with Twitter, it's just so fast paced and you gotta like, it's almost like text messaging sometimes. Like you have to respond pretty quickly and ride that wave pretty quickly.
interesting. Or you're not in it. You got to be there in the
Right.
moment. Yeah.
Right. Um, I don't know. All of the platforms lately have been, they reward you being there and being present so
Hmm.
much more than in the past where you could automate a lot of your posts. And now it's like, oh man, you have to be there. You have to like have some real time engagement, one on one with people, responding to people, um, really taking the time to build those relationships rather than just, all right, I'm going to post a bunch of links to my stuff
Right.
all day and that's just going to be, I'll set those up to run without me even paying attention. You
And
won't really see the same growth.
interesting. Yeah. What's your take on Twitter then? Like, what do you recommend?
So with
Bird's eye
my
view kind of thing.
strategy, I
Yeah.
find
What is
that
your secret strategy? Because it totally works.
yeah,
People
if I
listening, this
go
totally works.
yeah, if I go into Twitter and I just go in and start scrolling, I fall into that doom scroll pattern where it's like
Doom
it's a
scroll.
nightmare. I can't just get on there and just start
Is
scrolling.
that like the Facebook zombie scroll where you just like, or the Instagram where you're just like, yay, da da,
Oh,
nay,
I
da
do the
da.
Instagram zombie scroll. I used to wake up in the morning and be like, Instagram, and just like start going through memes and stuff. And I've got
Right.
a group chat on Instagram, but Twitter. So I've started to try to be really strategic about the time that I spend on Twitter because you can get sucked in so easily. I have formed a list of just the top voices on different categories that I'm interested in. So I've got like a marketing voices list that you're on. as well as several other top voices, people who are just killing the game there.
Sweet.
I've got another list of top brands that I'm interested in, who do a great job of social media marketing, especially on Twitter, like Oatly. I don't know if you saw the
Who is
report
it?
that Oatly, Oatly, they're like a brand out of Scandinavia. And apparently sales of oat milk during the pandemic have gone up like hundreds of percents. Like I'm talking like over 300%. People just want their oat milk
Weird.
during the pandemic. Yeah. So their brand has just been killing it and they are so fun to follow. I've been watching them. Then
Oh
there's
wow, you're right.
Fast.
Great photos, and
Yep.
they got like a cool model with his hands in his jeans and a cow head on. Like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up?
Have you I'm sure you've heard of them, Fast? They're like a new tech company. They're part of the e-commerce world. They help take the friction out of the conversion process. So when
Fast
you're purchasing
e-commerce.
stuff, I forgot what their handle is. I want to say it's Fast, but I don't think it's that simple since they're a newer player. But their social media marketing has been really ramping up lately. They're fun to watch too.
There was
Um,
also like wasn't there like a meat one or like a hamburgers one?
Oh, what is it? Beyond Meat or something like that?
Oh no, it was more of like just like a meat
Oh, the
sandwich
regular
brand.
meat.
Yeah, it was almost like a White Castle kind of brand where they're just like completely indignant and they're sarcastic to people. I kind of like when brands throw a little like I've seen
Sass.
yeah, a little sass, right? A little Burger King, McDonald's fight where they're like,
Yeah.
well, it certainly doesn't look like this. Like,
I love Wendy's. The fast food
You're right.
companies.
Wendy's is the king of that whole.
Hmm.
Didn't they burn like something like 1,000 people? They were just like, hey, yeah. There was like wasn't it like thing like you'd say, hey, Wendy's, can you burn me? Like people started
Yeah.
asking them to because they were just they they burned McDonald's, they burned Burger King. They're like, get out of here. Like, how frozen are those burgers, Burger King? How's it going? What's up?
Oh man, yeah, they are some of the leaders, which is surprising. It's fast food, but they kill it. They absolutely kill it. What's cool is the B2B brands that are killing it on
Interesting.
platforms like Twitter, because you always think, oh,
Harder.
B2C are going to have so much more fun and they have a broader audience. But there are some B2B brands that are also doing really well. There's the
Yeah.
LinkedIn crew that we all talk about: Sweetfish Media, Drift,
Yeah.
Privy, Gravy, Gong. They're all
Yeah.
they're all there, and they have a very cool strategy where they leverage the voices of their individual team to amplify the voice of the brand and to get people curious, like, oh, who's this
Right.
cool person talking?
Yeah.
And then, oh, they work at XYZ. I'm going to go check out what this company is.
Do you know Udi? Have you met him? Heard of him from Gong?
So I have not met him, but I've interacted with him on Twitter. He made I was part of their I joined in their Celebrate Online event,
Okay.
and he said something about Miss Piggy, and I was just like, don't disparage Miss Piggy.
It's like,
She's a
watch your
queen.
mouth, Udi.
She's a queen.
Seriously, yeah, no one messes with Miss Piggy for sure. I will say though, like Udi, Gong, they're great. First of all, crazy stuff that they sell, but then second of all, like Udi was a magician. I don't know if you knew that. He was
I
like a
did not.
magician, like a professional magician in a former life. And I
Wow.
swear I might have seen him at like a conference one time because they used to have like magic conferences where you go and learn more magic tricks.
Were you a
Not,
magician?
yeah, for sure.
Ah, is
Yeah.
this like a marketing thing? Because I worked the first CMO that I really worked for. His name was Phil Schwartz. He was huge into magic. He
Oh,
was like,
geez.
he had his own advertising agency, and he was a professor at UF for a little bit, University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida. And he was big into magic too. So this might be a sign of
This
marketing greatness.
might be a sign. Which, in case, I need to send you a magic kit. So,
Please do.
right?
I need to brush up on this will level up my marketing game.
For sure. This kind of reminds me. I don't know if you've seen the Big Bang Theory. It was on last night, and it was like a replay, and a couple friends like pretended like someone knew how to do a card trick, because they just said, every time he said, "Is it a king of this?" They go, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's my card. That's my card." And it was driving this other guy crazy because it wasn't actually magic. It was just them all playing a practical joke on him.
See,
But
I'd need that level of support from my friends, I think, to be
right.
successful at magic, because I don't
Ace
know
of
if I'm
clubs.
naturally.
That's what my
That's
card is.
you got it.
There you go. That's an okay echo chamber at that point. Guy, just tell me this was a good magic trick and it will be good. Yeah, we'll have to get you some magic lessons for sure.
Yes, please. So that's the one takeaway that everyone needs to walk away from this podcast from with. You need to get into magic if you want to be successful at marketing.
Yes. Yes.
The end. I think
And
we
social
got
media. Magic and with our powers combined. Like that makes it work. You mentioned Instagram earlier. What's your take on that?
Instagram. Oh my gosh. I have such a love-hate relationship with Instagram. So I don't have a professional Instagram account, like where I focus mainly on marketing.
Yeah.
I have managed brand Instagrams in the past, mainly for B2B, which it's tough, when Instagram is so, the audience trends much younger.
Do you play in that world? Like, is that a good space for B2B, or is that mostly consumer and direct to marketing?
I think anybody can make a space good for them if they know how to just leverage it. Like, right. You got to be scrappy. You got to be innovative. There always has to be a first on every platform. So I'm sure, Twitter, when it first came out, not a lot of B2B brands were that active on Twitter, saw the value there.
Right.
So somebody had to be the first and had to lead the way. And even now you're seeing B2B brands that try out very new, cool things. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. That actually worked. And then the rest of us kind of try to figure out how to follow suit.
Right. I know like SpaceX has a great Instagram
but look at the personality of who's behind.
Oh, sure. But they also have social rockets. Media. Like, if you're not launching rockets, what do you put on Instagram? As a company, especially if you sell like SaaS software, what do you even any thought?
Learn about our network optimization.
Yeah. Here's a
solutions.
Sprocket. Look at our Sprocket over and over and over again on that Sprocket.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It also depends on, depends on the size of the organization too. If it's a smaller organization and your marketing resources are limited, then you should really focus and go all in on maybe one or two platforms and not spread yourself too thin. Because you can't just post and walk away. You've really got to take some time to engage with your audience, to build a community, to build the relationships, to make your brand seem more human and accessible than you're talking at people or just using it as a promotional channel where it's just like, here's our links, click on our links, sign up for our webinar, the end.
Two massive points. One, the idea of focus. You can't dabble in all these. Like, you can't, hey, let's go hop on TikTok now. Like, no, you need to otherwise you're going to be lame. And then it's almost worse than if you didn't even show up on there.
Right. I've seen one of the worst things is when you see like a brand account and it's been abandoned. So it's like sitting there and it's just a testament to like your failed foray into a new area. Where
last
it's like,
tweet,
what did you?
2012, 1998 is your first and last tweet. You're like, ugh.
Did this company fold or did they go under?
Are they even there? Yeah. What about the second part of the thing you brought up about not just talking at people? Like, that's such a huge point. How do you approach that? Because I think it's really easy to load tweets these days into Hootsuite or HubSpot or whatever tool you can programmatically load CSV file, upload, boom. Now you got tweets for days. Like, how do you, and you're not talking at all, you're just shouting at people. How do you make it more mutual conversation, interactive back and forth?
I think for one, you got to have somebody who is social media savvy, who understands that world and can manage your strategy for you. You can't just pass it off the keys to your accounts to like a junior level person and be like, just do whatever,
Right.
just to say that you're doing it. Because that social media strategy has to fit into the bigger brand strategy that you're trying to build. It can't just live on its own. It's got to be a piece that enhances the rest of what you're trying to do. It has to match, or it should match the voice that you're using for your overall brand. Although in some cases you do see that brands take a more playful tone on social media than they might on their website or in other places,
Right.
which I think works too, as long as you're consistent and that you're mindfully making that decision, not just saying, okay, well, we're just going to do a bunch of memes and, you know, hashtag, I don't know, what are the cool things that kids are, hashtag no cap, hashtag
Right. Now,
big
hashtag
mood
I
or
don't even know what
whatever.
to say. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um, hashtag ice bucket challenge. Little
oh
late
my
for that.
gosh.
Little late for that,
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah. Old school. We
Glad
did
you just
that
got.
one.
Wouldn't that be funny if you just like you're like, hey, I heard about this new thing, and you did it, and people are like, are you trolling us? Did you
Yeah.
really just learn about this yesterday?
You could bring
Uh,
it back.
you could bring it back. Be like, you know what? I'm stuck at home, nothing else to do. Let's all just douse ourselves with ice because it's what could get worse. It's 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, matching the overall brand or being, I love that, being intentional about it, not just handing the reins to, the new, hey, Bob, could you just do that Twitter thing,
Yep.
What if Bob's angry that day? That's not going to be a good representation, Hey, Cheryl, come on
Yep.
over here. This needs someone who knows what they're doing and is and understanding that so many times you see brands that they get in trouble or someone's yelling at them on Facebook and they start deleting comments, which just makes the trolls angry. They come out of their
Yes.
bridge and they really start burning you. So it's like you got to sort of know the rules of the road, how to play the game, maybe have a little humor in there so you're not a robot. Yeah, it's so huge to just think about it, not just cast it off as one of those things that you just, it happens because it can get you in trouble,
Right.
or it could be awesome.
A lot of times the trolls just have so much more time than you will ever have. So as much as you try to delete that stuff, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
And I mean, people now can have conversations about you without necessarily participating. So if you delete their stuff off of your page, they'll go and tweet it out or go and post it on a different page. And then those
Yeah.
conversations are still being had. They're still spreading throughout the community or the audience that you're also targeting. So it just, and it's worse if it's over there because then it's a new location that you have to go and seek it out and find it and try to jump in and do some damage control.
That's a huge point, right? Now they're on Reddit. Good luck with that one. And there's
Mm.
a whole, whole channel all about how your company sucks on
Yep.
Reddit. And now people that didn't even know about it are all about it. And it's spiraled from there as opposed to maybe keeping it somewhere where you can control it and be nice to people,
That's what it's
Man.
about. Be nice.
So we've talked about, by the way, Instagram, they have my number when it comes to their ads. For some reason, they figured me out. Maybe I'm just simple or they have figured me out. Facebook still hasn't figured me out. And I keep trying to like stuff so they can stop showing me dumb ads and show me the good ones. And I got a little bit better, but Instagram, they know me. They're like, look at this cool thing. Wouldn't that be cool on your wall? And I'm like, yes, it would. Let me buy this. They just, have you experienced that on that platform or any other platform where you're like, whoa, these ads kind of do speak to me.
Instagram does seem to deliver up some great ad content.
Yeah.
Facebook, I mean, they're killing it when it comes to the entire ad game. They own most of the ad space, digital ad space, as far, especially out of social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're the clear cut winner there, between Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
The three of those are just, it's a killer combination. And you're seeing a lot of people moving away from Facebook. I don't know if that's turned around in the pandemic. We're seeing a lot of a lot more social media use this year than ever before in
Yeah.
Q1 and
We're all
Q2.
at home, bored,
Right.
angry, bored and
Yeah.
angry.
um, so yeah, Instagram just, they have great ad content, and the I think the format that they deliver it up in is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just the images and videos, and just feels very interactive. It's just a cool. I
Yeah.
love Instagram. I love Instagram.
Me too. Love hate, right? Because otherwise it can suck you in there, and you're like, wait, where have I been scrolling for 20 minutes? What's going on? Like,
Reels
I
was just
curate my Instagram.
introduced.
Like, I try to, Facebook, there's a lot of people I'm connected to. Twitter, I'm trying to be nice, but with Instagram, I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not trying to make any connections. I just literally want to see things that make me happy. So
Yep.
I only follow things. There's mountains. There's what are there? There's SpaceX stuff. Rockets, and it's just like people working out, being healthy. I'm like, great. This is my happy app. On Facebook, they're all like angry and sometimes rightfully so. Sometimes they're just angry people, or the comments, the comment battles, and you're like, oh. But Instagram is my little happy place. So maybe that's why they've got me figured out for the advertisements.
Instagram is, I love the content on there. I could spend
Yeah,
hours and hours.
yeah.
So Reels was introduced. There's a big debate about Reels versus TikTok, and then
Okay,
there's
catch me up,
Triller.
because like I don't even know what is that.
Yeah, so Instagram has their own sort of version of TikTok. I just saw it introduced on my
Like they just
app.
did it now? Oh, a
Yeah,
day ago. Wow.
I think it was a day or two ago. Yeah, yesterday I just saw the announcement in my Instagram stories. Instagram was like introducing Reels. So a lot of people are talking about that. And if TikTok ends up, whatever happens with TikTok, they're saying that Facebook has such an audience on Instagram that Reels stands to be a huge competitor
Mm-hmm.
regardless. Even though they're late to the game, it's more so about the audience than the feature itself. So they stand to benefit so much from just the level of access that they have to everyone on their platform.
Everyone. Um, as you were kind of like helping me understand what was going on, I was like, I don't know, is that dirty, or is that just good business? But I'm like, TikTok's getting kicked around, like, oh, you're gonna get canceled. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my million TikTok followers, and all these things could happen. Is Microsoft gonna buy them? Nothing really good comes from Microsoft buying something. Sorry, Microsoft. Thanks for
We
not
still
breaking
use
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for not breaking
Yeah.
LinkedIn. You broke Skype, and now I use Google Drive, so I don't need Word anymore. But yeah, like, okay, buy TikTok, but you're right. People might be like, ooh, this, if it could happen once, it could happen again. Maybe it's safer doing it over here on Instagram while my cool photos are.
Because we know
What?
Instagram's not going anywhere. So
Right. Instagram's like definitely not going anywhere. Facebook is like probably put their roots down underneath the Congress so that they've been there. Get that out. Interesting. So what's your take? What's your thought on if you were to predict the future with that? Where does it go? Does it take over?
I have a strong feeling that Reels is going to do really well. And that's just based on what I saw with.
Nice joke.
I mean, that's based on what I saw with Snapchat, like
Yeah.
Snapchat was huge at one point, and then they had a couple of hiccups. I still use Snapchat just because I think it's a much more personal, direct way to talk to a limited few. And I like a lot of the stuff that they've done to expand their media
Mm.
offerings. So they have a whole news section where they serve up like news stories and multimedia content, which I really like. But they're just not as big as they once were. They're not
Right.
as present in the conversation about social media marketing as they were years ago.
Right.
Um, and
I
that
heard
may,
they had an offer to get purchased by like Facebook or someone.
yeah, I was going to say, and that may stem from them not going that route and trying to hold out a bit, I guess. I don't really know the details of what happened there. As you know, I've watched Silicon Valley. I know that there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't know about that goes on in those dealings in
Jeez.
that yeah, in the tech world. But
I'm looking at this
yeah,
thing just now. It says they turned them down several times, like a second time, a $3 billion offer from Facebook
yeah,
in 2013. And you're right. I mean, I think I still have Snapchat, but like super limited to your point, like one or two people. I used to, that's how I got my babysitter to come over because that was the only way you could communicate with her. And I'd be like, hey, are you free on Thursday at 7? And
hmm
she'd write back, yes. The problem was my message disappeared, right? Because Snapchat just disappears. So I don't remember when I asked her, like, you're available. What day did I ask you? Like, crazy. But you're right. It's not nearly as where it was. Man, I wonder if that 3 billion is looking pretty good right about now. I don't know.
I don't
You
know.
think
I
so?
mean, was your babysitter, is she part of that Gen Z younger group?
Gotta be. Yeah, just graduating high school right about now.
I was trying to do some intel and I put out a poll about it to see, do people use Snapchat still for personal, for business? Is it just completely gone?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that the general feedback was that there's a lot of use among Gen Z. If people are using it, then it is more of the limited scope, but definitely not as much usage for business. Um, and I can't think of a single use case for B2B. Although this week they did launch a global B2B campaign where they're trying to get B2B marketers onto the platform. So that'll be interesting to watch and
Hmm.
see if they figure out how to get us on there.
Are we still talking about Snapchat? They say
Yeah.
B2B on Snapchat.
Yep.
That seems like a stretch to me, but I guess like you said, we need diversity of thought. Like who knows, right? Anything could happen, but man, I don't know. Snapchat has a kind of like a almost like a dirty connotation to it as well because the messages disappear and like, ooh, you're safe now or something. I don't know.
Although we did find out that that was a misconception. So
Oh, what
the
happened?
the stuff doesn't, your content doesn't actually delete. You can still access. It still exists. I mean, it's out there. I think
Really?
it, yeah, I think that was the big scandal.
Uh-oh.
Like,
Right now, a couple people are going like, wait, what do you
oh,
mean?
oops.
Oops. Hey, the takeaways we have on the show, sometimes it's the myth right at the beginning. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to get into it where we find out that Snapchat, still has everything you've ever written. So
Yep.
crazy, crazy. Any other, you mentioned like WhatsApp. What's your take on that? Anything other than just communication? Is it kind of more Skype-like, or is it something that?
So what's weird is I've heard so much discussion recently about the success that brands are having with SMS style
Hmm,
marketing to consumers and to
interesting.
users on WhatsApp, which I have not used that at all. But I've heard great stuff about it. I know WhatsApp is huge with the international community.
Yes.
At one point, I was a huge fan of Meghan Markle. I am a huge fan of Meghan Markle, the princess, the American princess,
Yes, of
and
course.
and the royal family. Actually, I think it was quoted in some article that they use WhatsApp. They're all on WhatsApp, so it's
Of
huge.
course. I
um,
can see the queen being like, "What is this?" She's probably telling her butler, "Can you please text my grandson and tell him that something somehow she got Scottish. Text my grandson and tell him, to pick me up or something."
I like that accent.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. Terrible.
I didn't even try. You
I'm just here
notice
to
I
make you
did
look
not.
good. Again, I'm your hype person. Like, don't mind the person in the blue hat over here. Just focus over there. Come on, camera guy, back over there. Yeah. Okay. So what? Yeah, I noticed that too. Very international. When we did some trips overseas, people we wanted to communicate with locals, and it was like, this is how we're all going to do it over here on this app, and it was pretty cool. But what's crazy now is I find it competing with Slack, and people are like, oh well, we adopted WhatsApp finally. 10 years later. But I'm like, you know what? That's like a single channel on Slack is what a WhatsApp thread might be. It's almost like Twitter like because it's just a bunch of people saying stuff. It's not necessarily organized. Whereas Slack, I'm a huge fan of Slack right now. Maybe everyone has been for a while, but like, I don't know, just lately, I feel like even individual people's communities have become like something.
Oh, I this year suddenly discovered all of these different Slack groups. So now I've
Yeah.
joined all these different professional Slack groups, which is kind of cool because it's a great way to expand your social media networks, even by connecting with these people in these groups, taking
Yeah.
advantage of some of the professional resources that they offer you. If you're looking for a job, there's job postings all over the place. There's people who are making the specific hiring decisions. You can have
Mm-hmm.
direct access and conversations with them.
Wow.
And then you can also leverage that by taking those relationships onto social media. So I've connected with a ton of people that I met in a Slack group on my LinkedIn or on my Twitter, which is, it's really cool.
That's cool. I,
Mm.
I'm excited about the different ways we're connecting with people and forming communities. Even it's like, okay, we can't really be hanging out unless you're in Georgia, or Florida. Florida,
Yes.
you guys, the people around you, are they kind of acting like nothing's really happening?
I personally, I haven't gotten out too much because I had like one scare and that like scared me
Yeah.
straight. I was like, oh no, I
Right.
cannot. I have a family and
Yeah.
I could be sick and still have to drag myself up and do stuff around the house, do
Yeah. With a
my
young kid and
normal.
everything. No, thank you.
No,
Yeah.
no. So I haven't been out too much, but from what I hear, there are some mask mandates. So
Oh,
in
okay.
some places, you got to wear the mask or whatever. But the big debate now is: are schools going to open? Are we?
Right.
I don't know what's going on. I don't think anybody does. We're
Right.
just trying to muddle through this.
Our school finally announced that they're going to be virtual until October. And
Wow.
then in October, they're going to probably go hybrid. But you have the option of staying virtual. And we're kind of leaning toward staying virtual. And not so much from a safety standpoint, because I think it'll probably be okay by then, but just the idea of like these kids having like kids, let alone adults, which are having issues, but like kids wearing a mask for like a 6 hour day, they'd have to do a half day, wear a mask the whole time. And then I could see teachers being a little angry about kids taking off their masks because teachers can get sick.
Mm,
But it's like, ooh, what kind of a weird little mini society would be in these little classrooms where, and then you just want to talk to your friend, but you can't because there's a plastic sheet in front of you between you, and you're in these like, what kind of weird dystopian like fiction book would school be like? So we're like, we'll just try to do a little home action anyways. We're at home now too, so there it is.
yeah, it's weird that there's so many companies that are saying we're not going back. We're gonna work remote
Right.
until whenever. Like I think Slack was the most recent one I want to say that announced
Did
that they're
they?
going to be remote until mid 2021 or something like that. So a lot of companies are saying we're not going to even take the risk. And
Yeah.
remote work is, if the infrastructure exists to support it, which it does for almost every
True.
case where you're just on a computer all day doing whatever on the computer, it might be better just for the mental well-being of people to give them that option at least.
Right. What's your personal take on? Do you prefer the remote thing? Do you like going into offices? Where are you at?
My company has been 100% remote, so it was remote even before
Yeah.
2020. So I was really fortunate to not have to deal with that transitional period.
Mm-hmm.
And then previously I've always worked in office with the option to have some level of flexibility. And
Oh,
I think
nice.
having that flexibility as like an option is so key. Like you don't have to go into the office every day.
Mm-hmm.
You can make your own decisions and decide what's best for you and your family and your team
Right.
at certain points. So if staying home works for you and your team and you want to do like 2 or 3 or 4 days at home and just I don't know why that would be a problem if your management trusts you and is willing to support you in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like the in-person can be a crutch. I mean, my company too, we've always been remote the whole time, which is kind of funny because I'm like a people person. I made a remote company. I don't know what I was thinking, but now I'm like, where are all the people? Come visit me. Um, but yeah, like in person, when did this person get in? Are they working at their desk? Are they playing a game? Like, you can micromanage people, but we've told people like we can't micromanage you when you're remote. Like, we need to trust you. So just get your job done and make sure the customer or the product, whatever it needs to be happy is happy and okay. And if you need to do work at 11 and, do your family thing at 8, like, cool, just make sure we get the stuff done, and I think that's kind of, it's almost like what our companies have been doing is just sort of like paving the way for now everyone else to be like, well, technically we could go remote and it's not really that big of a deal to do that.
I think it's so nice for working parents, especially,
Totally.
because what we were talking about before, where the school situation, the childcare situation is so up in the air. There's so much uncertainty and a little bit of fear around that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, having the ability to work from home and make the decision that you feel is best for your family, rather than being like, well, I have to go to the office, so you got to go somewhere too. It's
That's huge.
such
And some
a
people don't even have that call, so they're kind of hoping like, please take the kid to school. Like, here I am all worried about kids being in this weird fiction, but sometimes people they don't even have the option to worry about that. It's like, well, you can't stay at home with a box of Cheerios anymore. That worked in the 50s, but not anymore. We gotta send you somewhere.
yeah.
Have you noticed that, like, I think so my mom's a teacher, so I dig teachers, but I also dig like parents teaching, and it's, I feel like it's more effective, but it's just like 10 times harder teaching them at home. Like, we get, maybe the kids are just paying attention or something, but like, it's almost like school keeps them for a bit just to keep them for us so that we can go to work. But man, when I've sat down it's with John or Lizzie to do like a little assignment or have them sound out words, I feel, maybe, I guess it's personal attention, right? You don't get one-on-one attention that much in school. So maybe it's inevitable that it would be better. I don't know.
Man, I don't know. I know I personally would be such not a good teacher. I'm so like I just
Seriously.
don't have the capability of being a teacher. So for one, thank goodness that I don't have kids who are school age, so I don't
Right.
have to
I was just
really
say you're a
make
little
that.
early in that process, so you're good. You're good.
uh, but I do feel so bad for the parents who are having to like suddenly
Yes.
learn, wow, teaching's really hard, just
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to work and figure out a curriculum for your kids. It's just
Hmm.
such a mess. But my mom also was a teacher, so I
Cool.
just want to take a minute. Teachers need to be paid more. That is a tough
That's
job,
it.
so they deserve so much more love and credit and support and just everything. Like,
Hmm.
I completely, I could go on about this for a really long time, so I'm not
Well,
gonna
that's what we do
not
here.
gonna do
But
it.
I'll go off of that. So I went to visit, but not all teachers are great, but most of them are.
True.
So whatever we can do to make sure the ones that aren't so great, maybe they take up something else, and the ones that are, they really get rewarded. So maybe that's not what's happening, right? And they didn't join to get rewarded or whatnot, but like the really good ones need thanks. And so one of the first teachers we went to visit, and she kept showing us these drawings and flipping these charts, and I'm seeing this little tiny chair, and I feel like I'm back in school myself, like I'm back in first grade, and I'm bored in a parent teacher conference, and I'm like, oh no, I'm bored, and I'm not like, oh, poor guys, But then I had another experience with a parent teacher conference, and after having that first one, the second one, she was amazing. She was amazing, and we talked about reading, and she opened my eyes to the fact that some books are good for reading, some books are good for being read too. Like,
Hmm.
they're written on purpose. Like, people are being intentional, just like we're intentional about marketing. They're intentional about, this is the kind of book that we'll read out loud to you so you can learn from it. This other kind
Hmm.
of book is better for you to read by yourself, and they build different skills. And I'm like, I love this. You guys are just as smart as we are. I just have no idea of your world, but you're being very intentional about the different ways people are reading and the words and building on the different. So you're right. It's, God bless the people that are just, and patience too, the patience to be able to put up with little nuggets
Yes.
running around.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that would be an awesome topic for the future too. You should take that, what you picked up from her, because as marketers, we're always looking on how to be better writers, be
Right.
better, create better copy that's stronger, because people just don't have the attention span to read very many words at all. A lot of times they're skipping over most of what you write. I read something that people only read 20% of what you actually write on
Really.
a page, depending on how many words there are or whatever. But there was some study that people just don't read. They just don't want to read your stuff, especially if, tying it back in with what we were talking about earlier, the bias factor. You
Yep.
say anything that people don't agree with leading in, or that they're not familiar with, it's a new concept or something
Mm,
that just doesn't resonate with them, then they're not going to read as long. They're not going to pay as much attention. They may not even give you the time of day. So knowing how to craft strong writing is so important, not just for social media, but for everything in digital marketing, regular marketing. Strong writing, getting people to read what you put out there, and not only read it, but retain it, understand it, enjoy it.
right.
So key.
So how do you do it? Because you for sure forced me. Every time I scroll by, I look at your LinkedIn, like I must read what you're saying, and it's unique and original, and it's like you're putting it out there. You're not mincing words. So what kind of advice would you have, even like in LinkedIn writing or this sort of basic copywriting? Any key tips?
um there's such a focus in marketing right now on writing, and I've seen a few of the key influencers saying
Hmm.
copywriting is the strongest marketing skill that
Oh
you can
yeah,
develop right now.
yeah, yeah.
um, and I find that the presentation is key. So the formatting plays a huge role in it. On LinkedIn, there's a particular format that works really well. um,
Is it secret? Can you tell us?
now
Just tell me.
it's
I won't tell anyone else.
what it is. It's that white space, a lot of white space, not a lot of blocks of text. People don't, you're scrolling through something, you don't really want to stop and have to digest a huge chunk of text. um, as well as the
Hmm.
fact that LinkedIn now rewards dwell time. So the longer that people stay on your post
What?
and look at it, the higher LinkedIn will boost your content to other people.
I don't think
Um,
I knew that. I don't think I knew. Maybe sort of like inherently I know that like too long didn't read is something to try to avoid. I try to make short sentences and short paragraphs, but I never thought of really doing that on LinkedIn. I think my next LinkedIn post would be obnoxiously just like this, and I would go crazy and be like, "What do you think, Chantelle? How did I do?" Like, um, yeah, it makes sense, right? Because that way you take up more real estate all up until the read more, and then people are like, I read that, let's read more, dwell, 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 as opposed to
Yep.
this big chunk of text. I think the same thing works on Facebook too. You just don't want to read someone's angry update, but if they have a couple sentences, it might suck you in.
Facebook is Facebook is crazy. I was
Yeah.
just I mean, the organic reach there has just dwindled away to the point where if you're a brand, then paid is just, you've got to have some sort of paid ad element to your strategy there. I think that there was a study that said that the organic reach on Facebook has gone down to somewhere around 5%. So even out of the fans of your page, only like 1 in 19 are seeing your content, your organic content. So
Ugh,
you gotta pay. You have to put a little bit of dollars behind your strategy there if you want to
jeez.
reach a good amount of people.
See, I can't tell if that's a dirty play or if that's just them doing business. But dang, I know people, and I'm still upset about it because you're right. It's like that's the thing. Facebook, you don't own your audience. Man, how many companies spent like serious money already to build those, and now it's like, oh, you want to continue talking to them? Yeah, pay up.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg needs another car. I don't know, but like, let's go. That's wild. You're right. But I didn't know about 1 in 19. That's pretty
it was a
terrible.
shockingly low number. And I think that's just, you've got to be smart as a marketer as the algorithms are developing, as the platforms are trying to exert more control over the
Yeah.
audiences on in their individual spaces. You've got to get smart about how you're going to reach people. So
Hmm.
for example, there's Facebook has a lot of media options now. There's Red Table Talk, which is a like streaming show that they feature. It's by Jada Pinkett Smith, the wife of Will Smith.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they just do tremendous numbers. And part
Really?
of that is that they're so good at drumming up interest in their channel and driving people to that channel in other places. So they'll, you know, spark some publicity thing on Instagram or on Twitter. And so everything drives people back to that other channel. And I
Right.
think that they're really successful at that. As well as Sheryl Sandberg, she has a show on Facebook Live, of course, on her page.
Is she
But
still
it's,
there? Is she still the COO?
I don't think so.
That's an interesting question.
I think
You read her book?
I did not lean in. No,
Yeah.
no, I did not.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
should.
she's still the COO at Facebook.
Oh wow. Because I know she runs the Lean In organization as well, which I think was the title of her book.
She only has 154 connections, so I don't know if she's actually using LinkedIn.
Or she's just being super selective and
Yeah, super selective, I guess. Like, really selective. How many? I know how many invites I get every day. She getting like thousands. She probably doesn't even check anymore. It's like
nope.
whatever. You also don't want Microsoft to know what you're up to. Probably can't use it that way. She's a third connection to me. I don't know if that means anything. I guess it means the Kevin Bacon. There's a few people that know a few people.
Yeah.
They can
6
get me
degrees.
there. Yeah, 6 degrees. Right. Totally. Man. So where would you drive people? Like, where do you drive people? Knowing that like Facebook, it's not really the place to keep them if you drive them there.
I prefer to drive people to my site, especially my blog, just to I do have a newsletter where I'm collecting emails. I'm trying to reformat that, restructure it. I've been studying email newsletters lately to see what actually performs well, because I think they're having a resurgence this year. A lot of people signing up for newsletters and just creating newsletters with awesome technology like Substack, great site, ConvertKit, just all these different options for making really cool content and getting it out to people. So I think that that's a great option for people, building your own email list, getting people to consent, of course. I watched your show on GDPR recently.
Oh my gosh.
And CCPA. So it's important to I think build up list of people who agree to receive your stuff and talk to you.
Totally. I just tried to subscribe to yours just now, but it's like already subscribed. All right, good. I was like, all right. You're right though. The email list. It's interesting. I mean, The Hustle. I chatted with someone from there. Like, if it's good writing, and I can maybe learn something, then you're right. I think it's coming back. But people have high standards now. It can't just be anything, you know?
Yes. So the old format of newsletter, where once again, it's the same thing, like social media, you're just blasting out links to people. It's not really that effective. It doesn't give people a reason to look forward to your newsletter and to take the time to read it, especially when inboxes are so slammed.
Yeah, man, they are so slammed. I like it. So drive into your blog, and we'll put the link in the show notes. I think people should subscribe. Should definitely do that. It's on the website. It's Get the Good Stuff. That's where
Yeah, because it is the good stuff. It's hopefully people will enjoy it.
If not, they just unsubscribe. But you mentioned the GDPR podcast, which by the way everyone should check out. Why? Because I literally had my first one 2 days ago, where someone replied to, and it was a personal email too. It wasn't it was sent with a Pardot, but like it was personalized, so it was text email. It wasn't even like a corporate fancy spammy thing. We're pretty good at these emails, and it came from me, and it was written pretty well. The subject line was a little long, but everything else was really good. And the person was like, I am not interested. And this is like former customer too. So I don't even know. So it doesn't make any sense, but like, I am not interested. And furthermore, you must remove me, GDPR, blah, blah, blah. I will punish you. You'll get fines, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was like, kind of personally, like, I was like, it's like, you just GDPR'd an email from me. Don't you know who I am? I wanted to like look the person's phone number up and call them and CRM and be like, I
How
just
could you?
emailed you. You just like burned me. Why did you do that? But we're like, okay, I guess you got to delete them now. So
It's super scary. Like,
yeah.
it's super scary because there's so many potential fines and penalties for that stuff. So you want to be so careful. In the
Yeah.
US, of course, other than California, we're not protected at all. Nobody cares. You can blast anybody, but except for
Well,
California,
so right, GDPR is not the US. So
just EU.
right. So I could technically write it back and be like, yo, USA, US, or like, born in America. Like, what are you gonna do? I'm not. Is she in California? That'd be the question. I gotta find out if she's in California. Ooh,
Yep.
now you know it's a she. But I won't say anything else. But yeah, I gotta find out if this person is in California. If they are, I should probably watch myself. If they're not, maybe we send them another email following up after this. No, don't listen to me, people. I'm delirious.
This is not the best conversation on CX and
Right, customer experience. Like, just you know what? Did speaking of some of these topics, especially at the beginning we were talking about, did you hear about he was that sales guy at the Drift conference?
Mm.
He's he's a 10x guy. 10x. What is his name? He's like I'm a 10x author. 10x author. Grant Cardone. Oh my gosh. Did you hear about him?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Have you read anything of his or heard anything about it?
I know who you're talking about. I haven't seen
Yeah.
anything about him recently.
Yeah, it's not so no, maybe it's like 2 years ago, but it's a great story. So it was at a Drift conference. I think you mentioned Drift before, right? Did you mention?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was at the East Coast one. Did you ever make it to any of the Drift conferences? Any of the
No, no,
travels?
but
Okay.
they're based in Boston,
Yeah.
which was where previous company I worked at was also based there. So it was
Cool.
like the Boston tech community love. It's a very tight knit community up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Totally. Go Patriots.
No,
It's great, right?
no
No, guess
NYC
not.
here.
It's okay. We can disagree. You're gonna leave the game early anyway, so don't even worry
I
about it.
100%. I think I went to a Mets game and I left early last time I was in
Really?
NYC. So
So,
yeah.
but you know what? Really, you're doing me a favor because you're getting out of the way so that when I leave, I actually stay a little bit later, so I don't even have people to walk with. I just like I'm waiting for the ushers to go like you don't have to go home, but you can't stay. Like go ahead. Like oh okay, I'll this way. Is it this way to get out? Like, yeah, it's that way. Get out of
So we're
here.
on the same page, just opposite sides. I'm beating traffic
Totally.
on one end, you're beating traffic on the other.
Right. Right. Totally.
Same.
Totally. Does it work? Do you actually beat the traffic leaving early?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't
Depending
think
on how
leaving late, you don't really beat the traffic. You sit in it less because you're like, I don't
you're
want to
at
get
the
in the
end of the
car because
line.
it'll be terrible. Yeah, that's awesome. So Grant Cardone, he's kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street sales guy, like, hey guys, but his book 10X is actually really good. It's all about like, okay, what are you doing now? What do you what's a metric you have now? What would it take to make that number? Could be your company size, could be number of engagements, leads, ABM engagements, whatever. What would it take to make that number 10 times as large as it is now? You know, and like that thought process. So the idea is just get you thinking like, okay, you're in whatever mode you're in now. What would it take? Like how many more people in the team would you have? What kind of budget would you need? Like what are the things you have to do? It's good exercise. Like to get to 10, don't try to think about like two, because the thing was to get to like a little bit bigger, you do basically more of the same, right? But to get to 10, it's like you can't just keep doing what we're doing. We have to do something different, more bigger channels, something else to get to 10. So I don't know. I
Mhm.
always appreciated like the idea of just thinking outside the box. And then I saw him at Drift, and I don't know if this is the guy's shtick, but he basically insulted his wife, um, and she was apparently in the audience like 10 times during his presentation. He's like on stage. Some people thought there was like white powder is involved. I don't know anything about that, but like I do know that he brought up things like, yeah, I got a private plane, gonna be in that private plane in like doing dirty things with my wife. He was like way more explicit, like almost like if it was a sales conference, people would be like, yeah, let's
Oh.
let's go, let's sell stuff, get a plane. Grant Cardone's gonna
Mhm.
teach me how to sell, almost like that, more of that. And it's not even the real sales mentality, because a lot of the best salespeople don't do that. But it was almost like that's his thing. Like, hey, I'm the guy. But like this was a marketing crowd, right? So
Yeah.
we were all like, what? And there were some salespeople who were like, I was okay with it. I actually asked some women afterward, and some of the women I knew that were like in sales were like, whatever. Like, we say goofy things in sales all the time. But the women who were in marketing were not so pleased. And this
Wow.
whole thing on Twitter started while it was happening. And I would say it was awkward. I think I was sitting in the front because it's the only way to pay attention. But I was like there, and I'm like slinking down in my chair because it was like really weird. And it's the kind of things that if I said, I would be in so much trouble when I got home. I'm not even going to say them, but like he would say these things, and it was just like, and it kept going, almost like he was trying to
Mhm.
get, maybe he's trying to get attention, or again, back to shtick. Maybe like I'm talking about him now. It's not in a good way, but maybe that is a brand hit for him. Like, I don't know, but the whole crowd was like not happy with it. And this Twitter thing blew up, tagging Drift, and like it was like a legit situation. And what's interesting is that afternoon, David Cancel, really cool guy, he actually came out and like apologized that this was not what we were thinking was going to happen. So he apologized the whole conference. And he actually individually apologized to everyone who said they had an issue with it on Twitter. It was
Wow.
really like him, responsive. And some people were saying like, well, what he's like. You could research him, but who knows? Like, he's an author. He's like a famous guy. Like, you didn't know he's gonna be go on this crazy tangent about his wife here. I don't think, unless he does it everywhere. But it was just like so crazy that he did that. I don't even know what we're talking about it, but it was like one of those things that like I was like, oh, that's terrible. Don't do that. And he brought up a couple things about marketing, like almost like someone had told him some marketing words to say. He has no idea what they are, right? He's like, oh, I know why we came onto this topic, because he was like, you know what? Here's my advice, guys. That doesn't sound like that. I don't know what he sounds like. Hey, here's my advice, guys. He's like that.
Like,
Um, he's like, you know what? Email people. And if they don't answer email them again. And you're going to email them until they're going to buy from you, or they're just going to die of too many emails, right? That was like his thing. And like all the marketers in the audience were going like, that doesn't actually work. Like, people are all going to unsubscribe, like, so who is this guy? And he's like, your subscriber list, just hit the list again. He's like, you know what? No results. Hit the list again. We're like, oh man, like someone gave him some talking points, like talk about email lists and do your thing, and talk about your wife too, and that'll make them happy. Like, it was just like, but that was the mentality of like, just hit him again, and it's just like not the way to do it.
how weird. I am not familiar with that situation at all. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that that had happened. It sounds a little bit like make money social media. So there's like this
Oh,
community on social media where they just like push making money and all these different gimmicks that you can like try to, and they have a very,
mm,
it's just another pocket on social media, another community, and they have a very specific way of talking, like, do you want to make tons of cash this fast? And then they like
oh
put out all
gosh.
these specific pictures of like luxury and guys with a
Right.
bunch of girls and all this other stuff. So I'm guessing it works for that niche
Whoever they're
group.
going after. Yeah.
Right.
Must be
So
working.
it sounds like he misjudged his audience a little bit.
I think so. I think that's
Maybe he
exactly what he did.
carried over.
If, like I said, if it was like a sales kickoff somewhere, to be fair, hey, cool. I'm glad the marketers at least said something. Maybe
Hmm.
some groups or whatever sales is like, maybe people were offended, but no one would say anything. But at least in this world, like, I was proud of everyone. They were like going crazy on Twitter. Some people more than others, but like it was true. But it was cool. It was good damage control. So I think the only way it spread was just by people talking about it afterward on podcasts like
Hmm.
this one. But they did a good job of just being like, totally our bad. We totally own that. That should not happen. But you know what's interesting too is because they were really edgy with their content in their conferences, right? But what was kind of crazy at the very beginning, they're like, look, some of the people may come out and you may not agree with them, but just listen and see what you think. Like David Cancel literally said
Mm.
that. And afterward, you're like, was he talking? Who was he talking about? Um, but there's one other speaker at that conference that was really fascinating. She was like the former CMO or marketer, VP of marketing at like Def Jam Records and like those kind of studios. I got to look her up. Really badass lady. And I was like, what am I going to learn from her? Like, I'm not in the music industry, like I like the occasional songs. Yeah, for sure. I'm on there. But like, this is just like one of those, maybe they just got a star to come or something. And like, what
Yeah.
am I going to learn? But I was in the front row and I was sort of stuck there, thankfully, because you never know, like to your point, like this whole conversation we've had, you never know who you're going to learn from. Um,
Hmm.
Not from Grant Cardone. It was from this lady, and I got to find her name, so put it in the show notes. But I remember one particular quote she said, and I'm trying not to misquote her, but it sounded to me like she said, she was talking about different artists that would come through, and she'd either see them stick around or they would just like one hit wonder and they'd go, right? Um, Someone would stay around, they've got more albums, stay around, and other ones just nothing. And she's like, the ones that stuck around weren't afraid to reinvent themselves, weren't afraid to
Mm.
disappoint their audience, weren't afraid. They would try things, try new sounds, and that's okay with them. And then come with them or not. And so she said this quote around something like, "Don't be afraid to pick up your spear, grab your bear armor." I don't know if bear. That's the one part I'm not sure if she said, but it sounds cool. Grab your bear armor, pick up your spear, and take off your varsity jacket and leave the cave. Right? It's not about your past successes. It's not about all that confidence you got from that last campaign or that last job you had or the last career. It's like it's what you're doing today, and it's a little scary. But take off that jacket; it's comfortable. Get your bear armor on and that spear and go get the next one. And she was like, go get the next one. And I was like, so inspired, and you just don't know who you're gonna learn from. It's crazy.
Yeah, that does tie really well to what we were saying earlier, that you
Yeah.
can't just have people in your network who reaffirm what you already think or what you already know, because
Right.
you learned something totally cool from this woman that you never would have just
Yeah.
naturally followed, because she may not be part of your network. She's not
100%. Yeah.
beyond 6 degrees of separation, beyond Kevin Bacon. So
I'm pretty sure I tried to send her a LinkedIn on the spot, but like she's probably like, who are all these random people? Probably like Cheryl, be like, I don't got time for this. But yeah, you're right. Just you never know, and I mean, at least Drift was bringing in really just a variety of people. Like I feel like
right.
that was one of the only conferences that, and they've done it a couple years now, where I thought, huh, to your point, these are not people that I would bump into. I haven't read their book, or I didn't know who they are, or just sit there and wait, because they've kind of curated these people to really challenge you.
Hmm.
Whereas a lot of those other conferences, like you said at the very beginning, it's like boilerplate, same old, recycled stuff in your echo chamber.
Yeah. And that is really something that I've noticed that this year has brought. People are like much more conscious of the representation of voices in their
Mm-hmm.
like events, and which is, it's great. Like I
Yeah.
think that making sure that you're providing that, like that variety of voice in anything that you're doing, whether it's a podcast or a webinar,
Mm-hmm.
and just checking yourself and who's speaking in this webinar. Is it like someone who's going to actually bring something new, maybe someone that I'm not necessarily super familiar with, or wouldn't
Yeah.
like, beyond your customer pool or beyond your close
Yeah.
associates network, and giving that opportunity to other people to like share their voice with
Mm-hmm.
a new audience that may not have had that exposure before. So
Yeah.
that's huge. So that sounds like Drift did that really well, which is always something that you want to see at an event. If you're spending your time at an event, you want to walk away with something new or something
Yeah.
to help you grow.
And there's literally other events from other companies that I cannot even name that like I don't usually attend sessions because I've heard it, like um I'd rather meet people, networking, expo, that kind of thing. But the sessions, it's like, oh, same topics, and it's a sales pitch, whereas this was like, and they had Casey Neistat from YouTube. I don't know if you know that guy. But yeah, a lot of different like people, and you're like being exposed to a variety of different folks. It was awesome. It was really cool.
Are you enjoying this year of virtual events, and is it not the same as far as networking for you?
Yeah, I definitely miss it. I think the only thing keeping me sane is doing some hiking here and there. Other than that, yeah, like I had like so many trips planned on Delta. I was going to go meet a bunch of people in Colorado and talk to them about marketing automation. And then it's like everything's canceled. And I'm kind of like, I enjoy interfacing with people. And like, so thank goodness for hiking and the podcast, right? I guess is the two. Otherwise, it'd be like, what am I doing? I'm in my house, like, and into this basement down here, there's no lights, there's no windows, right? So it's just like a casino. I could be down here all day. I could podcast 24 hours like a Twitch streamer, and like I wouldn't even know the difference, How about for you?
I was going to say, speaking of Twitch, a lot of people have talked about how virtual events could stand to learn a lot from gaming and from that environment, and how interactive and fun and cool it is. Like the big thing was the Travis Scott concert on Fortnite, and everyone's saying, oh, that was like an awesome experience where like all the gamers are there and it's kind of like a virtual experience, and then he just like rose up out of the center of the map, like this huge 3D whatever, and he started going into his performance and everyone was going crazy. They're saying that level of like where you feel like you're still getting a strong interaction component with like other people who are there. There's like a level of high quality visual, and they were just saying that there's so much that could stand to be innovated in virtual events, and looking to other places would be a great way to I guess come up with some sort of inspiration for that.
100%. I totally agree. I was literally ranting about the same topic a few days ago because some cool people with an app, it's like a Zoom, it's like a webinar app. And they were like, hey, what do you think? And it started out with like niceties. And I was like, okay, let me just, because I care, let me tell you what I think. Like my Zoom webinar, I got it for free because we buy Zoom Meeting and they just chucked it in there. It's great. It works fine. It's clean. The UX is, it's a good design, but it could be way more interactive. And so even like the webinars I've tried to do, I try to make them more like Twitch. And I recommend people go check out Twitch and just like watch somebody, right? They're very good. They're very good. They can have like 1,000 people all chatting with them, donating things, like donating money and placing bets and voting in polls. They're very good at that. Whether you're playing games, I've seen people like doing it. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually go and I'll visit someone who has no viewers, right? So it's just me.
That's really intimate.
Right? But now you have somebody watching you, and they're like, hi. And you're like, yeah. And so, but it's the way that they can command a crowd and fans, a tribe, that kind of thing. It's like that totally needs to go into webinars, make them more interactive. And so I was trying to talk to these guys like, look, don't try to be another Zoom. You're not going to compete on that scale, but be like the most interactive B2B Twitch webinar ever. Like let people drop memes in the chat, let them chat with each other. And the other idea was like, let them get referral points, because there's points in these things. Like every hour you listen to or watch Twitch, you get like a point from someone, and then it gives you rank, and then you can buy things with it. Like gamify the whole thing. Let people come to all your webinars, and like, you've been to like 30 webinars, you have 9,000 points. Buy some chess swag with it, or like a free copy of my book, or like, like you could really do that. And then if you invite someone, you get 100 points. That'd be so cool. You could do all sorts of stuff. So I was like, here you go, guys. Here's my idea. Run with it. I'm like, I wonder if they'll run with it. And then half of me was like, don't run with it. I feel like I need to run with it,
I was about to say, somebody's going to listen into this and they're going to pop up and we're going to be like, oh, we were part of that. We inspired that.
Totally.
Because there's so much opportunity there. I think that whoever comes up with like the next iteration of like B2B virtual event
Mm-hmm.
is gonna be like so successful. Because even
Yeah.
Zoom this year and Google Meets got introduced or whatever,
Yeah.
and Microsoft Teams, and their stock is like.
Do you have a favorite? Any of the meeting apps?
I tend to just use Zoom
Yeah,
because
me too.
it's so everyone's on it. So.
I like Zoom.
Mm,
It's funny. Zoom costs something. The Google Hangouts, which is now Meets, which is like
mm-hmm.
rebranded. I don't know. It always some people on my team are like, every time I use it, it just doesn't work, or like there's something wrong with it, or it has that sort of hangouty feel. Doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
maybe as professional as joining a meeting on Zoom. Something about it. So it's free, but we still pay to use the Zoom thing. It's
Mm.
interesting.
Just Zoom, I think, got their foot in the door.
Yeah.
They were just, it was the perfect storm. They they had something set up. It was excellent. And I think a lot of other companies are now like seeing how successful they were
Mm-hmm.
and trying to shift and get some of that market. The same way
Yeah.
that Shipped and Instacart and the grocery delivery services,
Oh yeah.
huge this year. And so now we see Uber is trying to get into that as well and setting up a grocery delivery as well. I
Smart.
don't know if they're still doing it, but last I read they were. So it's like another
Smart.
example of like who can innovate the fastest to fit this like new world that we're trying to
Seriously.
navigate.
Seriously. And when can I get back to the other world and go on a cool trip?
Yeah.
I was actually supposed to be in Tanzania right now,
Wow.
climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And on my calendar, it's still in there. It's like, on Sunday, I fly home. And I was like, shucks. But maybe next year, maybe. So, hey, who are you? Who are you? You know so many things. I feel like I could talk to you for days and learn things that catch me up on stuff that I'm behind in. But yeah, who are you? Take us back. Little Chantelle days. Like, what was it like growing up? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
Did you always want to be a marketer?
Um, kind of.
Yeah.
Marketing is most kids don't really hear about marketers or
Right.
know or understand that term.
Right.
But even from a young age, I loved storytelling. I loved
Mm.
writing. I was really into that, into reading. So as I got older, it was just sort of like a natural progression. I feel like my path just sort of naturally led me into the marketing world. I started off, my major changed a bunch in college. So I was like, well, I'm
Where'd you go to
gonna
school?
University of Florida
Oh
in
wow.
Gainesville, Florida. Yeah.
Wow, with a football team, great weather.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good
Yeah.
time. Like I was up north. So it was as good as it can get. But like, was that cool? Did you go to like games and stuff or?
I did. And I did leave some of them early. So
I'm sure you did. Well, I wouldn't blame you really, but yeah.
especially if we had a blowout, which wasn't too often because we had a pretty good football team when I was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I came in, I was like, I love gaming. I love video games. I love computer games.
Yeah.
So my first thought was computer science,
Right.
or computer engineering. And then seeing some of my friends who were in the engineering degree path, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. So then I was
Maybe
like, well,
not
maybe
that.
just, yeah, maybe just business or something like general where I could take those skills and learn other things on the side, like coding, and apply that to the business world.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I ended up in journalism, PR, more that field.
Okay.
So my early career was focused on more that space of communications. Journalism has been in such a weird stage of change, trying to adjust to the digital model
Totally.
with all the paywalls and stuff like that. So I decided that I wanted to play it safe and go with more stability. So I moved more into marketing and PR. I worked with a bunch of different companies, brands, agencies. I found that I really like working with tech companies and SaaS companies.
Mm.
I love the tech world. So that's kind of been my sweet spot, I would say.
Right. And it looks like you spent some time in the PR world. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like a flash in because for me, it was like a flash in the pan. I did an internship, you did it real quick, and it was like, um, not for me necessarily, but like, what was that like? And did you eventually translate out of that for a reason, or did you just kind of fall into another position?
um, PR is it was also in a period of like change.
Oh, sure.
So I would say people are still, it's still a period of change. Like
Hmm.
companies still want that earned media. They still want that, the benefits of PR for their brand. But it's tough to connect with journalists, and there are
Yeah.
newsrooms have tightened up so much that there are fewer journalists who are managing a lot um, more on their plate. So
Hmm.
it's tough to get the attention of journalists unless you're like a big company or you have raised some serious dollars.
Right.
um,
Hmm.
so smaller companies are going to have a harder time getting that same level attention. But working in PR and journalism helped me with my writing skills a ton. It helped me figure out how to position a story in a way that focuses on what's important,
Hmm.
where you can spot out what's newsworthy about something very quickly, or if it's newsworthy,
Right.
and how to position that. So that helped me with crafting messaging and figuring out how to be a little bit more concise, to the point, um, what matters and what's BS, what's fluff. Because if you
Yeah.
try to pitch a journalist on, you're trying to talk to someone with Reuters or the AP or the New York Times, they don't have a lot of time for nonsense. You can't
Yeah.
really game them too easily with, well, we this is why it's important and our CEO thinks this is important. They're not going to care. You have to actually have a legitimate, hard
Wow.
hitting something.
Yeah.
um, so I think that helped me get that kind of mindset, which is important in marketing because your
Very.
customers are the same way. You have a limited amount of time to get their attention and to get their interest. You need to figure out quickly what's gonna resonate and
Right.
what is just fluff.
Yeah. Like no BS, right? Just because the
Hmm.
CEO likes it. And they're so busy now. To your point, there's so few of them getting paid. They're not getting paid to listen to your brief or to read your long press release about how great you are. Like, is there a story here or not? I'm out. Bye. It's like you
Hmm.
can't fluff it. That's interesting. And that gave you that kind of, I don't know, that edge to be like, okay, if you can pitch a journalist, you can pitch anybody. Like
Hmm.
they're tough. So that's I could see how then you'd really perfect your craft of getting that point at the earliest in part. Like that thing I read earlier, that email that was like, oh, in this unpleasant time. It's like I don't have time to read your 2 paragraphs about how unpleasant this time is. Like, what is your point? That
Right.
email, I still don't know what their point is. I think it's something to do with investments, but I have no idea. Like, what's their point? Too long, didn't read. I didn't get there. They didn't have a lead in or whatever you call it. Like it failed. And so it sounds like you've really honed and perfected not only the storytelling, but also how to get that down on paper.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up press releases.
Mm-hmm.
Those are such, I think they're getting more and more antiquated.
Mm.
I think the business like seeing, and your executives and your investors and your board like seeing a press release more than journalists or the general public do. Um, they just feel kind of like a relic from an
Yeah.
older time, because there's so many ways to get your news out. I mean, what was it? The Alexis Sohanian, Senior from Reddit. He, I follow him on Instagram, and he put something out recently. He was like, "I'm stepping down from the board of Reddit because we need more diversity on Reddit,"
Huh.
um, and he made that announcement via Instagram, via social media. It wasn't a press release, or it may have been, but I didn't see it as a press release. And I think
Right.
most journalists were like, "Oh, this is instantaneous. We have multimedia here. This is his direct voice."
Mm.
You were able to pull it directly from there. So it's just become like I think there's a new, better way of communicating brand announcements than just sending out a press release.
Right. Did you learn how to write those in school?
Um,
Or because you were
No.
journalism, you were the other side of it, maybe?
Yeah, like we just learned about general strong writing. Like
Oh,
it
yeah,
was it
yeah.
was pretty much how to tell a story, how to tell a story efficiently, which
Really?
was great. I think more marketers should take a journalism reporting course, um, because I think that it sets the foundation for good, strong writing in such a useful way. Um, there's a lot of overlap between strong business writing and strong news writing.
Right.
Um, so I think that would benefit a lot of people.
I think so. I think automatically we just gotta have to have you come back and like just talk to us about all the things you learned in journalism and how to
Oh
actually
man.
write a strong story. If I ask you now, I think we'll be here till like your kid will be like, "Where's lunch and dinner?" And my kids will be like, "Why aren't you playing with us?" And I'll be like, "Sorry, kids, but I learned all about how to write a really good story." Wow. So and then, but that transition into marketing, and so now you've been doing the marketing thing for a while. In this social side, is that just on your own? You're just doing because I would call you an influencer, but it doesn't sound like you're doing that for your company necessarily. It's just you are putting great thought leadership out there.
Yeah, as a marketer, I think every marketer should try to have a social media presence.
Yeah.
Um, it helps you stay on the pulse of what's hot, what's not, what people are talking about. It lets you be a fly on the wall. You can see conversations going on in
Hmm.
communities that you want to target, or that your buyer communities for your actual brand.
Right.
So doing it on a personal level benefits you. It benefits your company. um, I think every marketer should and get involved on all of them. I mean, most of the accounts are free, so just so you can kind of see what it would take. I
Hmm.
think there are some platforms where I have an account, but I'm not necessarily active, just because I want to make sure that I understand some of how it works, and I've at least dabbled in it. Like
Hmm.
Snapchat. I've been on Snapchat for forever. I understand the interface. I see when new things are introduced, so I'm able to just keep up with that kind of stuff, and it's fun. It gives you something to do. Like this year, you were saying we're all home, and like, what do I do? Social media
Right.
is a great pastime.
Right. Man, man, so many things going on there. Wow. Hypothetical for you. If you were to travel by time machine, because I might have one in New Hampshire, possible, plausible.
In the
Uh,
basement, right off camera.
yeah, it's in the backyard. It's covered with a tarp. Um, and no, if you want to come steal it, just steal it. It's in the backyard. Those nefarious people listening. But yeah, so you get to use a time machine. We'll make sure it's clean, post COVID and all that. But it takes you back to a certain period of time. It takes you back to a few days after you've graduated from school and you're basically starting your career, or at least outside of school. What kind of what kind of advice would you give yourself, having been through what you've been through and experienced what you've experienced? What kind of things would you tell yourself to do, not do, that kind of thing?
um, so honestly, I would probably tell myself to relax a little bit, to enjoy the journey. Because I think so many times you're like young and you're like, oh, I need to have my path mapped out. It has to be this
Mm-hmm.
CMO,
Sure.
CMO, CEO. Like it has
Right.
to be just
Right.
like this very like linear path. And I think that I think most people who are older and professional have realized that there's like no set way that you have to go in your profession, that sometimes the detours can be just as much fun and can
Right.
teach you just as much. Also, not to worry about a lot of the hardships early on. I think it seems so like blah blah inspirational, but failure, it's just a natural part of everyone's life and a natural part of careers. It's not, it doesn't say anything about you as a person if you're not a good fit for a particular company or role. It
Yeah.
doesn't say that you're inadequate or you
Right.
suck or you need to question yourself as a professional. It's the same as with relationships. And it's totally cliche to compare marketing to relationships, but not every relationship is going to work out because two people aren't always a good fit. And you can't know that until you've been there for a little bit. So it's the
Right.
same with companies. Sometimes you get in a role and you're like, um, this isn't a good fit. And you just kind of have to accept that, embrace it, learn what you can learn or take what you can take, and move on to the next thing and hope that
Yeah.
that one's a fit, that one's a love match.
That's a beautiful way of saying that, because relationship, job, it's not you, it's the relationship of you and the company and your skills. Maybe it's a terrible decision to let you go. Maybe it isn't. Or
Mm-hmm.
usually, though, to your point, those failures are usually a stepping off point for something even better that you didn't even think about. Maybe
Right.
you were comfortable in your cave and you need to like take off your varsity
Grab your
jacket and go
sphere,
grab your spear, right? Like you
your
need to go do
bear.
that. And sometimes if you don't do it, someone else will do it for you. But either way, I mean, I've been fired for sure. It doesn't, and I love how you're saying like it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been some of your actions or not actions, or could be something completely different, but it doesn't mean you as a person are bad. Learn
Right.
from that. Just keep going. Get back
What's
out
funny
there.
is I just posted on LinkedIn about kind of the end of my journalism career was me getting fired on the first day that I
Yeah. I was like,
actually
somehow I
was.
know that about you. And I must have read that because I'm like, I know that about you already. Yeah.
My very first day, I got fired because I was trying to get my foot in the door, and the only position that was open back then for entry level people, nobody was leaving the newsroom, and the only role where you could like get in was as a stringer, a sports stringer,
What's
covering high
what's
school
that?
sports.
A
So
stringer?
basically they have a bunch of like contractors, like you're not an actual like full-fledged reporter. It's just like a bunch of people that they're like, hey, you go cover the game between these two high school whatever, show up, write about the game, and then send in the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I drove out there to the stadium. It was in this really kind of sketch part of town. It was
Oh, geez.
dark in the middle of night. I wasn't familiar with the area. I'm trying to cover the game really quickly. It's moving fast paced. The deadline is like a few minutes after the game is over. I'm
Really?
missing highlights because I'm not like a super sports buff, so I
But how do you
barely
do it? How do you, the deadline's like 2 minutes after it's done?
it was like very quickly after it was done, so I had to like write it up, collect my thoughts, and send it over, which it for someone who's a football buff or whatever, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but
Yeah, I
for
guess. Yeah.
me I needed time to process. So yeah, I
Now, where are
completely
you at
missed
with
the
it?
deadline.
You at least like, oh, I know what a touchdown is. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's not like you were, yeah. I mean, same here. I'm not into like fantasy football all the time so that I know like who anybody is or any. So yeah, it can be. I think that's why they like, didn't they? I think for when New England played Atlanta, a Super Bowl is like this wacky turn of events, but they had like already written all the headlines of saying like Falcons win.
Yeah.
And because like to your point, they didn't have any time. They had to just write it. And then they were like, wait, JK, go
Oops.
back. How it happened. So what have you missed the deadline and they just were like, peace?
Yeah, because like I sent it over and it was a mess. And I mean, the night is a blur. I barely remember it, but I remember just being in my car, like trying to find like a Starbucks with signal
Oh
because
no.
there was no signal, and I was like crying. And
Oh
yeah, so
no.
after that,
So
just
you knew, like you're like, oh shit, like
yeah,
this is
yeah. I don't
not
even think
gonna.
I called them back. I think it was more like a mutual ghost. Like it was just like one of those, this is not a fit. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah,
Wow.
firing is not the end of the world. And now I'm here and I love marketing, and it was probably for the best. I mean,
Seriously. And you're more of a voice now than you were as a sports stringer, that's for sure. So
yeah, I would hope so.
right. Oh, for sure. Tell me, where can people connect with you? We mentioned there's a blog, all these things, like throw out like social platforms you'd love to connect on, URLs, all that stuff.
So my webpage is my name, www.chantellemarcelle.com. I have a Twitter, which is at ccmars_rights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on LinkedIn under my full name. And then I have an Instagram. It's You know what? I'm gonna leave Instagram off because
Are you?
it's kind of just my funsies one. So I kind of like use it to experiment and see what's working on Instagram at different points. So yeah, I
Is
would
it like
say
actually you, or is it like a testing thing? You don't even like use it.
so no pictures of me or anything. I use it to post like my design work. I do a
Interesting.
lot of digital art and design and funsy stuff like that, just to keep myself flexible in that area as well.
And you think people would
Um,
want to see that?
um, I don't know. It's like a separate brand, you know. Like it's
I know,
like
but maybe like you're such a marketer, the way you described, like that's
a.
everything you just said would be interesting to see on my feed. Like I don't know, but
Well, I might start trying to merge that into my full-time brand. Maybe I'll start posting my stuff on LinkedIn and see
what
dabble in the
happens?
response there. Yeah.
Yeah, like do an experiment, try out some reels, put it on LinkedIn, and
Oh
let me know what
yeah.
happens
All
for
the
sure.
cool dances that they
Oh yeah, yeah. Little TikTok on LinkedIn. Oh, that's how
yeah.
the world is ending. If TikTok ends up on LinkedIn, I'm just like, I'm out.
It's only a matter of time now.
I'm sure it is. We'll have to talk about it when that happens too, for sure. Well, man, I don't know if you looked at the clock, but time has just like flown right by. This has been
Whew.
so much fun. I know you get your family in the background going like, "Hey, what about me?" And I was like, no, you can have her back. She was awesome. So, man, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on here and just hanging out with me for a bit and teaching me a
Yeah.
whole bunch of stuff.
No, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean that's the point, right? If we can't have fun, then do something different. Um,
Exactly.
for the people listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. I like ran out of space, running in the margins. I get percentages. If you've learned something, and there's so many takeaways here, so many things. The idea of the fear of doing the wrong thing, authenticity, the monitoring, diversity of thought at the table. Oh my gosh, so much stuff. Share this link, right? Share this episode with other people, but don't just share it. Put your thought leadership into it. And all that is just put your thoughts onto it. Like, what do you think? What were your takeaways? I know what mine are. I've written them down, but like, what things did you have? Put that. LinkedIn's a great place for that. Share with 8 people, 48, 960. Who cares? Just share it. You probably have more followers than Sandberg has, so don't sweat it. Get that thing out there. Tag myself, tag Chantelle, and like we will comment all over the place. And if she comments, then basically the views will go through the roof. So try that. See what
Hopefully.
happens. Her superpowers are not to be fooled with, but to be learned from. So thank you again, Chantelle. This is awesome. We'll have to have you come back and talk journalism and story writing and all that.
Yes, I'd love to. Anytime.
Fantastic. Well, for those people listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.